I first saw Clara standing in the rain, and I knew I was already ruined. It wasn't some dramatic lightning strike. It was a Tuesday. The 7:15 bus had sputtered away without me, leaving me stranded under the awning of the Quiet Page, the used bookstore she owns. The sky was the color of old dishwater, and the rain wasn't falling so much as hanging in the air, a cold, persistent mist that seeped into everything. She was framed in the light of her open door, a silhouette cutting into the gloom of the street. She held a mug, steam curling around her chin. Mid-40s, maybe. She wore a thick, cream-colored sweater, the sleeves pushed to her elbows, and her dark hair was coming loose from a clasp at her nape. She wasn't looking at the rain. She was looking at nothing, her expression a quiet map of somewhere else. Then she saw me. Not a glance, but a slow, considering look. Her eyes were a gray-green, like sea glass. "You're getting wet," she said. Her voice was lower than I expected, textured. It wasn't a question. "Bus left," I said, my own voice sounding too young, too sharp in the damp air. A pause. The rain hissed on the pavement. She took a slow sip from her mug, her eyes never leaving me. It should have felt confrontational. Didn't. It felt like she was reading the cover of a book she'd pulled from a shelf, deciding whether to open it. "Come in, then," she finally said, and stepped back. Not a warm invitation. Practical one. A dry space offered to a stranger. The inside of the shop was a capsule of warmth and silence, smelling of paper, old glue, and the faint, sweet scent of the chamomile in her mug. She moved behind the counter, her movements economical and graceful. I saw her hands then. Ink was ground into the fine lines of her knuckles, a blue-black stain. A small silver thimble glinted on her ring finger. "I'm Leo," I said, wiping my boots on the mat. "Clara." She didn't offer her hand. She just watched me drip onto the worn floorboards. I pretended to browse, my skin prickling with the awareness of her. The silence was a living thing. I could hear the soft scratch of her pen as she made notes in a ledger, the rustle of her sweater sleeve against the wood. I picked up a book at random. Its spine cracked. "That one's overpriced," she said, without looking up. "The binding's failing. I haven't had time to fix it." "You fix them?" She lifted her hands, a small, quiet gesture. "Look, it's what I do." I walked to the counter, placing the book between us. "Show me?" For the first time, something flickered in her eyes. Surprise, maybe, or a faint amusement at my boldness. She put her pen down. She took the book, and her fingers brushed mine. It was the briefest contact, dry and warm against my rain-chilled skin. A static shock, tiny and profound, leapt between us. She froze. I froze. Our eyes locked over the broken spine of the book. In that stretched second, the whole silent shop narrowed to the point where our skin had met. Her lips parted, just slightly, as if to speak, but no sound came out. The air grew thick, charged with something that had nothing to do with static electricity. Then the bell above the door jangled violently. A man in a postal uniform blustered in, shaking water from his coat, breaking the spell with the clumsy reality of the outside world. Clara blinked, pulling her hand back as if burned, her gaze darting to the intruder. But before she looked away, I saw it. Not panic, not anger. It was a flash of pure, unguarded longing, so deep it looked like pain. And in that moment, I knew I wouldn't be catching the next bus either. The postman left a package and a knowing smirk, the door closing behind him with a finality that made the returning silence hum. Clara busied herself with the parcel, her movements tight, precise. The ink on her hands seemed darker against the brown paper. "You don't have to stay," she said, not looking at me. "The rain's letting up." It wasn't. It was drumming harder on the window. "The binding," I said, my voice too persistent. "You were going to show me." She exhaled, a soft, surrendering sound. "It's a dull process. I like dull." That made her look at me, really look. Her gaze traced my face, my too young face, the rain still clinging to my hair, and I saw the calculation there. The risk assessment. I was a transient, a gardener who moved with the seasons. She was a pillar here, her roots tangled with the gossip of a small street. I'd heard the whispers when I'd asked about the shop. Keeps to herself. Since the divorce. A shame, really. It's not just the book, is it? She asked, the question hanging like a held breath. I had no good answer. The truth was a danger. So I shook my head, a barely there movement. She led me to the back, a workshop bathed in the warm glow of a green-shaded lamp. The air smelled of leather and linseed oil. Books in various states of repair lay like patients. Her space, her sanctuary. This one, she said, cradling the broken book. The glue has failed. The signatures are loose. Her fingers, skilled and sure, teased the pages apart. I stood closer than necessary under the pretense of watching. I could see the faint silver strands in her dark hair, the delicate line of her neck where her pulse fluttered. My ex-husband, she said, her voice a low murmur meant for the pages, not for me, said this work was a burial ground, that I spent more time with the dead than the living. She applied a brush of glue with a steady hand, but her jaw was tight. Perhaps he was right. He was wrong, I said, the words out before I could stop them. Her brush stilled. She turned her head, and we were suddenly inches apart. I could feel the whisper of her breath on my chin, could see the flecks of amber in her gray-green eyes. The air in the small room grew dense, warm. My own breath caught. She didn't pull back. For a long, suspended moment we existed in that charged space. Her eyes dropped to my lips, just for a heartbeat, and a flush crept up her throat. Then, slowly, deliberately, she reached out. Not to touch me, but to wipe away a smudge of garden soil from the cuff of my jacket. Her thumb brushed the skin of my wrist. A simple, practical gesture. Yet her touch burned, and when her eyes met mine again, the unspoken truth between us was no longer a quiet thing. It was a live wire, crackling in the lamplight, and we were both holding on. The sound of a key scraping in the shop's front door lock was a gunshot in the quiet. Clara jerked back as if struck, the intimacy shattering. Her chair scraped the floor. That's Mara, she whispered, her voice frayed. My friend. She has a key. Footsteps approached the workshop doorway. I took a deliberate step back, putting a respectable distance between us, my heart hammering against my ribs. The air still vibrated. Clara? You in here? A woman with a kind, curious face appeared, holding a paper bag. Brought you that tea you like. Oh. She stopped, seeing me. Her eyes, friendly and sharp, darted from Clara's flushed face to my own, then to the space between us, measuring it. Mara. This is Leo, Clara said, her voice impressively smooth, though she couldn't meet my eyes. He missed his bus. I was showing him a repair. In the back room, Mara observed, a smile playing on her lips. Must be a very special book. The subtext hung in the air, thick and unmistakable. Clara busied herself with capping the glue. It is. A first edition. I see. Mara's gaze lingered on me. A quiet appraisal that felt like an X-ray. Well, don't let me interrupt the restoration. She set the bag on a cluttered shelf. I'll just be off. Call me later, Clara. After she left, the silence returned, but it was different now. Poisoned with awareness, with the ghost of an almost kiss and the looming judgment of the outside world. She knows, I said quietly. She suspects, Clara corrected, finally looking at me. The vulnerability was gone, replaced by a weary defiance. It doesn't matter. This is... She gestured vaguely between us. It's not anything. It feels like something. It's a mistake waiting to happen. She wrapped her arms around herself. You're a boy. I'm someone who ruins things. I had a marriage. I have a life here, however small. This would be... She trailed off, shaking her head. People talk. They'd say I was desperate. They'd say you were confused. I'm not confused. The words were a vow. You should be. She turned away, but her reflection in the dark window betrayed her. She was watching me. I didn't think. I crossed the room, stopping just behind her. I didn't touch her. I just let my presence surround her, let her feel the heat of me so close in the cool, ink-scented air. Our reflections stared back at us in the glass. Her, elegant and tense. Me, all rough edges and longing. Clara? I breathed, my voice barely audible. She shuddered. A single, full-body tremor. Then, slowly, she leaned back. Not into my arms, but into the space I occupied. Her head tilted back, just slightly, until her hair almost brushed my chest. Her eyes closed in the reflection. We stood like that for an eternity. Two shadows drawn into each other's orbit by a gravity we were powerless to resist, hovering on the edge of the fall, not touching, yet closer than we'd ever been. The sound of her breath, shallow and quick, was the only thing in the world. The reflection in the dark window was a frozen tableau of desire and hesitation. My hands ached to close the distance, to settle on the slope of her shoulders. I broke first. My hand came up, not to pull her to me, but with a tenderness that surprised us both. I brushed a stray strand of hair from her temple, my fingertips barely grazing the delicate skin of her forehead. She flinched but didn't pull away. A sharp inhale. "Leo," she whispered, a warning and a plea woven into my name. "I can't stop thinking about you." I confessed into the space between her neck and shoulder, the words raw, unfiltered. "I walk my gardening routes and I see the shape of your hands in the tree roots. I hear your voice in the rain. It's not normal." She turned then, slowly, within the circle of my near embrace. We were face to face, so close I could see the faint, worry-worn lines at the corners of her eyes, the slight tremble of her lower lip. The lamp light caught the sheen in her eyes. "What do you want from me?" Her voice was cracked, stripped bare. "A few secret afternoons? A scandal for the street to chew on? I am 22 years older than you. I have shelves of regrets. You have everything ahead. I want the truth," I said, my own voice rough. "I want the person you are when no one's watching. The one with ink-stained hands who thinks she ruins things. I want to prove her wrong." A tear escaped, tracing a path down her cheek. I didn't wipe it away. I watched it fall, a testament to the war inside her. "You foolish boy," she breathed. But there was no heat in it, only a devastating sorrow. "You're asking me to ruin you. Then ruin me." It was a line crossed, a bridge burned. The air left her lungs in a soft rush. Her gaze dropped to my mouth, and the last of her resistance seemed to crumble. Her body swayed forward, a millimeter, a surrender. I leaned down. The world narrowed to the space between our lips, to the shared, charged breath that warmed the closing distance. I could already taste the chamomile on her sigh, could feel the magnetic pull. My lips were a whisper from hers. And then her hands came up, not to draw me closer, but to press flat, firm against my chest. A stop, a barrier. "Go," she said, the word a torn, broken thing, filled with a despair so deep it hollowed me out, but I saw it in her eyes. The same word, screamed silently in a language of pure, hopeless longing. "Stay." The word "go" hung between us, a shard of glass. Her hands on my chest were a brand, trembling with the effort to hold me at bay. I saw the conflict ravage her face, the despair in her command, the silent, screaming stay in her eyes. I didn't move. "You first." Confusion flickered. "What?" "You said go. So go. Walk away. Open that door and leave this room right now." My voice was low, relentless. "If you mean it, you'll do it." It was a cruel gamble. Her eyes widened, the shock of the challenge breaking through her anguish. Her fingers curled slightly, gripping the fabric of my shirt instead of pushing. She was caught. The truth of her own body betrayed her. "I can't," she finally whispered, the admission dragging from somewhere wounded and deep. "God help me, Leo, I can't." The victory was hollow, tasting of salt and tears. Her hands slid from my chest, falling limp at her sides. She looked shattered. "He left me," she said, the words rushing out like a confession long damned. "My husband, not the other way around. I told you I ruined it because Because it's easier to believe. The truth is he walked out and I stood right here in this shop and I let him. I didn't fight. I was so afraid of being the desperate one clinging on that I just let go. She hugged herself, her ink-stained hands making dark prints on her sweater sleeves. And now you're here and I am desperate. I'm clinging. And it's worse because you're not him. I'm what? A chance? She breathed, horrified by her own words. And I am so terrified of ruining a chance. The revelation shifted everything. Her shame wasn't from a failure she'd caused, but from a surrender she'd accepted. And now, with me, she was petrified of her own want, of being seen as that woman again. The one left, now desperately reaching for something too young, too bright. I closed the distance she could not. I didn't kiss her. I took her face in my hands, my thumbs sweeping the tracks of her tears. Her skin was fever-warm. She shuddered, her eyes closing, leaning into my touch as if starved for it. Then let me be ruined, I murmured, my forehead leaning against hers. Let me be the thing you reach for. Let them talk. Let me be your scandal. Her eyes opened, searching mine. The fear was still there, a wild, trapped thing. But beneath it, something else was rising, a current of defiant need, stronger than the shame. She didn't speak. Instead, she turned her head just so, her lips brushing the pulse point in my palm. A kiss, not on the mouth, but on the roadmap of my vitality. A surrender and a claim. It was her decision. Silent, profound, and utterly irrevocable. The point of no return was not a kiss, but this, her mouth on my skin, accepting the ruin, choosing it. The brush of her lips against my palm sent a jolt through me, sharper than any touch before. It was permission. It was a covenant. For a long moment, we stayed like that, her breath warming my skin, my hands cradling her face as if it were the first proof of something sacred. The workshop air, once smelling of dust and glue, now carried the scent of her tea and linen and the faint, clean sweat of fear overcome. When she pulled back, her eyes were clear. The war was over. The decision shone in them, fragile but resolute. I'm afraid, she said, the truth simple now, no longer a weapon. I know. My thumbs stroked her cheekbones. So am I. It was the final confession. We were two people standing on a cliff edge, hands linked, admitting the vertigo. I lowered my head slowly, giving her every chance to turn away, to be the one who walked this time. She didn't. She watched me come closer, her gaze dropping to my mouth, her own lips parting on a shaky inhale. The first touch was not a collision, but a meeting. A soft, tentative press of my lips to hers. It was chaste, questioning. She went utterly still, a statue coming to life. Then, a sound escaped her, a quiet, broken sigh from the very center of her being, and her hands came up to fist in the front of my jacket, anchoring herself to me. The kiss deepened, not with frantic hunger, but with a devastating, slow-burning certainty. It was a conversation without words. Her mouth was softer than I'd imagined, and she tasted of chamomile and salt. My arms went around her, pulling her against me, and she fit there. A missing piece I hadn't known I was searching for. Her body, tense for so long, gradually melted into the curve of mine, a surrender that felt like a victory for us both. We broke apart, breathless, foreheads resting together. Our breathing filled the quiet room, a syncopated rhythm. Her eyes were closed, long lashes dark against her skin. Okay, I whispered, the word barely sound. She nodded, a small, definite movement. When she opened her eyes, they held a wonder that mirrored the ache in my own chest. There was no more hiding, no more subtext. The attraction was acknowledged, the risk accepted, the line irrevocably crossed. Okay, she echoed, her voice raspy with emotion. It wasn't the end of a story. It was the fragile, terrifying, exhilarating beginning of a new one. We understood each other fully now. Two flawed people, one marked by the shame of surrender, the other by the obsession of longing, choosing to be ruined together. The world outside the shop with its rain and its whispers still existed, but in this lamplit circle, all that mattered was the warm reality of her in my arms, and the quiet understanding that nothing would ever be simple again. We didn't rush. The world didn't need to know yet. For now, the victory was in the quiet. I helped her tidy the workshop, our movements falling into a silent, new rhythm. When our hands brushed passing a bone folder, it was no longer a charged accident, but a quiet promise. She didn't flinch away. Later, we sat on the worn sofa in the corner of her shop, the rain a gentle patter on the window. A single lamp cast a pool of gold over us. She curled into my side, her head resting on my shoulder, my arm around her. It was an act of profound trust, more intimate than the kiss. I could feel the steady, solid beat of her heart through my shirt. "People will talk," she murmured, tracing the line of a callus on my palm with her fingertip. "Let them. It won't be easy." "I never asked for easy," I said, pressing a kiss to her hair. It smelled of paper and rain. "I asked for you." She was silent for a long moment. Then, she tilted her head up, her gaze searching my face. The last shadow of doubt was there, but it was fading, replaced by a weary, warm acceptance. "I'm still afraid." "So am I," I admitted again. The honesty was our foundation now. "But we'll be afraid together. That's the deal." A soft, real smile touched her lips, the first one I'd seen that held no sorrow, only a tentative, dawning peace. She reached up and cupped my jaw, her thumb stroking my cheek. "Okay," she whispered. "Together." We sat like that as the evening deepened, not speaking much, just being. The age gap, the whispers, the past regrets, they were still there, but they were outside the circle of lamplight. In here, there was just the warmth of her body against mine, the intertwining of our fingers, and the quiet, certain knowledge that after a lifetime of watching from a distance and a season of longing, we had finally, messily, come home. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?